Welcome to Potential Unlocked, a stacked coaching podcast. In today's episode, we are back with my life coach, Will McGreal, as we talk about falling back into patterns and how we can begin to break those. If you're interested in life coaching or need a little bit of therapy, check out willmcgreal.com. If you're interested in nutrition coaching, check out stackcoaching.com. Personalized programming, check out stackedcoaching.com. And if you're local to the New Orleans area and looking for a gym that is ready to help you maximize and unlock your ultimate potential, check out stackedcoaching.com. Enjoy the episode. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Potential Unlocked with the life coach to the stars, Will McGreal.
Hey, how you guys doing?
And by stars, that's me.
Okay.
There's crickets in here. Tough crowd.
Okay.
All right. I'm Bradley Schiller, everybody, owner of Stacked Coaching, also host of Potential Unlocked. So last week, or the last time you and I got together, word on the street was we hurt a lot of people's brains.
Yeah.
I actually got a good review. They said it felt like a philosophy class in college. Someone told me that.
Let's do something a little more practical today.
All right.
Yeah, let's look at, I want to talk about something that everybody talks about. I'd say every single client I have ends up having some type of resonance with, this is a pattern I have over and over again. Pattern.
And the pattern, I guess, could be positive or negative.
Well, they'd only come to me about patterns they want to get rid of.
Okay.
So I want to look at those. I mean, I think the first thing to understand is that a pattern it has a certain quality to it that people feel like they separate from the pattern. Sometimes they'll say, like, I do this thing over and over again, but there's this difficulty in owning the pattern entirely. Like I want to get rid of it, but I don't know how to take responsibility for it. A really great example is, for example, a woman who is possibly being beaten by her spouse. Mm-hmm. And before that, she had a boyfriend that also was physically abusive. And when she left that relationship, which took forever, I'm totally making this up, by the way.
Yeah.
It's sort of a composite. There was effort to be made into making sure they wouldn't repeat that same pattern by making sure the person was different. Lo and behold, same thing happens. And on a much lesser scale, but I want to get back to that example. On a much lesser scale, we have things where we might say, in relationships, I'm always with somebody who feels like I'm not good enough for them, like I'm never doing enough for them. And no matter who I get with, that happens over and over again.
Yeah, I feel like what you're describing, I also see in nutrition coaching. In fact, I just had a client reach out to me, fill out their tracker, and they talked about, it was almost a habit dip, but then like they were doing well, and then all of a sudden it was like the rails came off. The wheels came off. Wheels?
They came off the rails.
Came off the rails, right? And it got worse as the days went by in the week in her notes. And then at the end, it said, I feel like every time I get to this place, my diet fails me.
Right. That's a pattern.
It's a pattern.
Right.
I mean, I said to her, is it the diet failing you or you failing the diet, right? But it's a pattern that we slip into every single time we get close or start to see progress.
Let's talk about some of the ways that people try to manage their unwanted patterns. And we're going to talk about it in terms of river stream flow, flow. So by the time the pattern... the series of events in the pattern reach its climax, usually it's the part that we don't like the most. Like, she dumps me. I always get dumped, or I end up eating again, or it's something that we identify as, that's the part I hate. Right. So we try to fix things more upstream from that. Head it off. Like, I'm going to talk to her differently than I used to talk to people because I think it's the way I talk to people that created the dumping result, the dumping consequence. Or I will take those foods out of my cupboard, because that will change everything if I can do that. Or I will organize myself. Like I'll create a calendar and a schedule, a daily schedule that says this is what I'm doing. Or I'll record all of my calories. Whatever it is, we think that if we do something upstream, those events won't lead to the same consequence.
Yeah, really, those things, though, are just like triage, right? Like, as soon as you take those parameters away, we're right back to falling into our pattern.
Oh, I'm going to recommend something even more radical than that.
Right, but I'm saying that's what is happening.
That's what it looks like.
Right, that's what
it looks like. But I think what's actually happening is that here's the real question. We're trying to avoid the pattern, and that's the problem. We're trying to say, like, I don't want that climactic consequence, that explosion, whatever it is that happens. I don't want that. And so we're trying to push ourselves away from the pattern. Well, what we fail to admit is that if we look at it in these terms, that I want this to happen. I mean, the pattern keeps happening because I want this to happen. Now let's go back to the physically abused woman. How could somebody suggest that a woman in that situation would want to be physically abused? It doesn't make sense. And it doesn't if you look at it that way. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about what the person wants to happen to change in that relationship so that doesn't happen. In other words, if I endure this suffering long enough, something will come out of it on the other end. That is what I want. If I do change something, the pattern will change and I will be loved or something like that.
Are you suggesting that we fall into these scenarios because possibly, unconsciously speaking, we believe that those scenarios will affect the change that we don't know how to create otherwise?
Yeah. I think that's a good way of putting it. We may nuance that a bit, but I like the way you said that. And I think that what's important about it is that the conditions, which we try to change upstream, like you said, like if I could, this triage of method.
Right.
But the conditions are so carefully set up by us that even though we may be unconscious of it, or we think we're consciously avoiding those conditions, we're able to create those same conditions or gather those same conditions every time. The conditions which actually create the series of events that end in that climactic explosion.
It's like if you, I'm going to chuckle here for a little bit.
Yeah, go ahead.
But it's like, it can manifest in a bunch of different ways. Like if it's something like we're trying to create some type of, that's not right. If we crave some type of energy in our life, we're going to attract someone that creates that type of energy for us.
Yeah, let's get a little more specific about it and see if that tweaks what you're saying, if it makes sense to you. Let's say that as a child, we endured something that had an impact on us, that we felt something was being withheld from us. Like, let's say a parent who suddenly has another child after us and seems to give that child more attention, and now we're fighting for that attention. And so we believe that we have to find somebody who says they love us, but actually attends to somebody else, and we need to convince them to love us. So
that fixed what happened in our childhood.
And that, right. So we don't want, like, I could say, hey, here's Frank. Frank loves you, and he won't have some other love interest going on at the same time. He won't do that. He's not like that. That sounds great. I don't want him. I want Joe. In other words, we may not consciously be able to say that, but that's what happens. We keep finding those people who will reproduce the same conditions so that we can finally fix that. The only love we want is the love we would get from that scenario.
Right.
That's the love we were missing.
Right.
We don't miss the love from Frank.
But it's not necessarily true. We
believe it, though.
It's a belief,
yeah.
Right? But it's a belief that the only way for us to love or be loved is to fix this scenario
exactly
via the exact same
Once we realize
method.
It's not true, that's the only way to get out of the pattern.
Right.
That's the
what I was
only
gonna
way
say.
to get
Like,
out.
yeah.
If you try to fix it so it works out better every time, now listen, you'll make some progress. You'll get a little bit more love. It will take less effort to get it, but it will still be a negotiation with the conditions. It'll still be a negotiation in a world in which you have to earn that or change something in order to get it. And it will always have that stigma in it, that sense of like, oh, it will carry something about the pattern all the time. And our options about how to behave in our world during those patterns will always be very dualistic, like this is my option, this is my option, damn it, those are my only two options. And no other options will seem clear to us or available to us because we're stuck in that pattern. And those are the only way we can fix it. So the most important thing about this is that the only way out of these patterns really is to know they're not true. And that is really hard to do. But I'd like to talk about some ways to start to look at patterns so that we can see some of the mechanism going on and let those observations be doorways into a deeper sense of what that thought is that's creating that. And then we can let that go.
All right, let's roll.
It's pretty fascinating to even just look at those. So, for example, the first step is to actually have a conversation with yourself or with somebody who's working with you to say, this pattern I own. In other words, I contribute to these conditions. I look for these conditions. I attract these conditions so that I will arrive in the pattern where I want to, that end result, hoping that it will change. But I want this to happen. Again, it has a little bit of that thing that we have to look at the abused woman and say, what? Not the suffering.
Right.
The thing that comes after it. That's hard, but that's really critical to understanding this. Once you do that, you can then say, like, well, let's take a look at some of the finer details of the pattern and see what we can find out about what's going on in ourselves about that. And here's the best thing to do about that is to look at the climax, which we absolutely don't like, the thing that we're trying to get rid of.
Right.
And then ask ourselves, how do you feel when that happens? So do you have a pattern that we could look at?
Yeah, I mean, we could talk about how.
Are you going to cut that pause out?
Let's see, a pattern for me.
Even around money, it doesn't matter. It could be anything.
Yeah. I think this is a pattern when I don't feel comfortable in a situation to manage my finances. Comfortable is a weird word to say. When I feel anxiety around it, or like, let's say I have a lot of expenses, okay? And it's not necessarily maybe affects my ability to pay these bills, but the amount of expenses at one time create a like I want to ignore everything. It's like if I ignore or put off or procrastinate, they'll go away.
What happens, though?
It gets worse.
And then what happens?
I got to pay the shit anyway.
But is there a crisis? What happens?
Yeah. Like there's a crisis and it comes to a head. And
describe that climactic moment.
It slowly builds up to where now everything, like it's like stress level that's filling up, right? Like we're putting sand in a jar or water is coming. And then eventually it gets to a point where I know I have to deal with it now. But at the same time, everything else around me, surrounding me, feels more intense, right? To where my anxiety is so high. So it only takes one little thing and I blow up. That happened today.
Okay,
actually.
And then what happens?
Then I deal with it.
And then you deal with it.
And then I deal with it. And then I'll feel better. Like something happened this morning. I kind of blew up and it was like, if I wasn't in if I talk about this a lot in fitness. I talk about load versus capacity. Like we all have a level of capacity for each day. Okay. And when our load gets load, which could be stress, could be previous injuries, could be sleep, our diet. But as that load builds up towards that capacity line, all of a sudden something that we do in the gym can injure us, where normally it would not.
Got it.
So case in point this morning, okay, this load is building up and I'm at my capacity.
This anxiety load.
This anxiety load. And something happens that I normally would not react this way, but I just lost it. I lost it. And I hurt someone that I care about. And, you know, it put myself in a situation that I regret. Okay. I wouldn't. If I could do it again, I would do it again. I'm looking for ways to justify my actions, but at the same time, it came to a head. I lost it.
In other iterations of this pattern,
and this happens every now, like this happens frequently,
regularly, right?
Yeah.
When the explosion happens, you said this time you ended up lashing out at somebody or something like that. I don't know.
I reacted to a situation in a way that was not loving and caring, and I could have reacted differently.
Not to the financial stress, but to something on the outside.
Yeah,
of it,
but
right?
it's due to all this stress building up.
Totally. In other iterations, have you also had collateral damage like that?
Every time.
And do you consider that to be part of the pattern?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny, though, when you first talked about it, you didn't mention that at all. Right? And yet, it actually is an essential part of this pattern. Right? And so the question is, what is it that we're driving for? We want to look at this pattern, and we want to see what it is that we absolutely need in order to hopefully fix it. Change something about it. And many times it's not the actual subject of the pattern for you as money. We might want to look at these other ancillary things that happen and say, maybe that's what the pattern is about. But that's what we need to find out. If we just take it for granted that it's about money and I get tense about money, then we'll look for ways to fix our issues around money. You know, I need you to deal with your money sooner. Let's create a routine where you just take care of 2 bills every day. Right. You know, something like that.
Yeah, it's not that.
I bought you a notebook, and it's green for money, and it's already got these categories in it. And I want you to do it. Like, we come up with these kind of things, but that's not going to change it, because if the whole thing is to blow up at somebody for other reasons, then you're going to find some other way of blowing up. You see what I mean? So we need to look at the pattern in its fullness. And that's why it's really important when you're doing inquiry about pattern that you examine every detail of several iterations of the pattern, because you're going to start to find yourself seeing other aspects of the pattern that are part of the repetition that you took for granted. Like, oh, that's just collateral. That's a symptom of it. No, that's part of the pattern, if you get my point.
Yes.
Okay, great. So right now, let's describe the serial events of your pattern. You started off by saying, I ignore money issues. So how does it start?
Yeah, so, and it's not just, let's say it's things that I need to do. Tasks, essential, right? Some are money. Uh-huh. Some are other things that I need to take care of.
No. So now we need to actually say what they are. This is the whole point, because we're looking for the thing that's driving all this. So money makes sense. It's you have to deal with money issues that are challenging. What are some other things that are tasks that you have to deal with?
It would be like errands that I need to run for the business, but not necessarily errands, like things that need to be accomplished that take time that I don't necessarily deem as a priority right now. So I put it off. But as I put it off, it becomes bigger and bigger.
Right.
Bigger.
So part of the quality of this is that you tell yourself these don't need to be taken care of.
Right.
So you don't. That's what you tell yourself, and so they get shoved aside, but they're building up traction of some sort. Certainly anxiety.
Well, yeah. It's interesting because it's I don't forget about them.
Yeah.
They build up in my head.
Like immediately.
Immediately.
Oh, I've got 2 in there. Now I've got 4.
Right. And now it's just like a floating list of tasks in my head.
But when you're on number 5 and 6, do you still say to yourself, okay, I don't need to deal with that right now? Do you still have that excuse for putting them in the box?
Yes. And here's the funny thing, Will, is I have success lists and stuff written all down. Like I have It's not like they're just floating in my head. They're written down places.
Right.
Like it's very clear.
Yeah, this is
my
your
green notebook.
right?
Right. They're written down. It's clear as day what I need to do, but it's like the more things that come at me, the more I'm like, ooh.
Okay, so here's a couple things that we're gonna use in order to help us ground ourselves with what's real about this pattern, like what's really driving us. One of those, and it's probably the most important, it's hard for some people, is to be able to register our physical response to some of these incidents in the pattern. So, for example, how do you feel physically when you have to do this task that you don't feel like doing?
In the beginning or in the end? Because it changes.
No, in the beginning. When you say, I don't want to do this, let me put it in the box. How do you feel? How do you feel physically? Now, don't answer this emotionally, psychologically. Physically, in your body.
Yeah.
What is it? What is the feeling?
It's like a itch you can't scratch while you're driving. You know what I mean? And you're like, I'll just put it off when I'm done driving.
Mm-hmm. In other words, you're kind of repressing the desire to do something about it.
Yeah.
But you also feel you can't do something about it now. And so, in other words, physically, when you have an itch that you can't deal with, it's because you're physically preoccupied with something else.
Right.
So physically, you feel like, I can't do anything about this right now. Is that what you're saying? What does it feel like physically? Where's the physical gesture of, I can't scratch it right now? What does that feel like physically?
I wouldn't say that. Let me rephrase that. It feels like, let's put it like this. Let's put it like you have something on your person or your physical body, right? That you're like, I should probably go to the doctor about that. But, it's not that big. Like, I can put it off, right?
Yeah.
And then as time goes, it gets bigger and bigger. And now you're like, all right, now I'm starting to feel some physical sensation from that. However, it's still probably not that big of a deal.
Okay. So going back, if that's an incident, right? It's probably not the thing that happens to you every day. But if that's the incident, how did you feel physically when you noticed that you had a mole that you said, I don't care? It's probably okay. How did you feel physically about it? And listen, you did feel something physically, or it wouldn't register with you. You wouldn't be able to go like, huh. You can act like it's nothing. You can be casual about it, but something triggered in your whole body. Otherwise you wouldn't know it.
Yes, so I want to say like repulsive a little bit.
Oh, this is good.
Right? Like I want to say repulsive. It seems odd that repulsive is a strong word.
Yeah.
Right?
That's why I said this is good. This is good.
Right. It's a strong word, but it's like, I'll be blunt.
Yeah.
Like my real estate tax bill, right? That comes in, and I live in Orleans Parish, so it's a shit ton of money. Yeah. And I don't have an escrow account. I like to pay my stuff at the beginning of the year, but things didn't work out this year how I wanted them to in terms of, so I didn't have, like, it wasn't like, oh, I'll just take this $10,000 out of this account and pay this, right? So it's kind of like, all right, I can make this happen. It's a lot to deal with it, but I don't feel like doing that right now.
So what does that feel like physically? Where do you register that in your body?
Yeah, in my throat.
What's it feel like?
It's like burning sensation in the back, maybe a little bit.
Very good. Now, you know the thing about the mole on your skin that you're like, oh, what does that feel like physically? Like, Like there's a conversation in which you're saying
less
could be, but where is it still in your throat or is it someplace else?
Maybe it's more up in the base of my head, in the back of the head, where it's
still in this area.
Yeah, still in this area, above the neck. Okay, and I would say it's like one of those things where you're like, this could be a bad result, but it's not bad until I actually deal with it.
I had this friend who used to say,
as long as I don't deal with it, it's not bad.
she'd be on her way to rehearsal, and it was in Manhattan, and it was 20 minutes easily away, right? 25 minutes.
Right.
They've already been in the road, and friends would always complain about her doing this. They would say, "Oh God, we're going to be late." You know, she's driving. "Oh, we're going to be late." She goes, "No, what time is it? 5 of." "We're not late yet." You know, like it's not there yet.
Right.
So I'm not going to deal with it right now. It's a sense of not until it's real do I have to actually even feel what it's like to be late.
Yeah, so it's not till I physically.
But you do register it a bit.
Yeah, like it's there, right?
Good,
like I could
good.
feel like it's there, okay?
Right.
Burning might be a little bit strong, but it's there, it's noticeable, it's in the back of my head, and physically in the back of my head. But I'm like, if I don't deal with this right now, I don't have to feel it right now.
Okay, but even when you saw the tax bill and you said it was like a burning sensation, can you still feel something in the back of your head? At the base of your skull?
Yeah, I would say it's weighty.
Weighty, right. Does it have a nauseated sense as well? Or can you describe this burning sensation in your throat? In your neck?
No, it's not nauseating.
No.
It's not nauseating.
So what is it then? Burning, give me one more adjective for it.
I would say heavy.
Heavy. Okay.
It's heavy.
All right. So you feel this heaviness. Now, if we were just talking to your body, not to your head, just talking to your body, what would the body want to do to take care of or manage this heavy burning feeling?
Take it off. Meet it head on. Get rid of it.
No, just your body. Not, in other words, not the bill. In other words, if it was just a body sensation, would the body want to go swimming to relax? Would it want to drink?
I see what you're saying.
What's the physical remedy to the body to eliminate this?
Make it go away. Like
That doesn't
All right,
count.
all
You
right.
got to like, what does the body need? Like, you know, like if your arm's sore, you want to rub it. See what I mean?
Yeah, you know what?
What's the
I
rubbing
feel what you're
equivalent?
saying. I mean,
Yeah.
like, for me, it would be transfer my energy elsewhere, to where it's not concentrated on that. That's what my body.
Divert the attention.
Yeah, divert the attention.
So in other words, the thing isn't going to go away.
Right.
Your focus on it, your obsession with it,
Right.
needs to go away.
Yes.
Does that also feel like your strategy for like ignoring it as well?
That's exactly my strategy.
So do you see how this is important? I know it was a little challenging to draw out this physical resonance with what's going on, but it's really, really, really helpful. To begin with, it helps us clarify our actions. We always think our actions are sort of coming from our head or whatever, but no, they actually have a physical engagement as well that says like, no, just get, this pain is so bad, just think of something else.
Right.
Right? See what I mean? For other people, it might be like rubbing it. So it might be that I just want to talk to everybody about my money problem.
Yeah.
You know, something like that. Okay, so for you, the feeling when these tasks first show up is that, but I don't want to deal with it. I'm gonna change my attention to something else. I'm gonna focus on something else. And so it's not even that you have to put them in a box. It's not like you have to go like, okay, now let me put this here.
Oh, but I physically put it in a box.
I know, but wait. Let me try to show you what I'm saying. I'm going to finish my coffee too. It's not. The idea is that you're thinking, I'm going to put it here. I'm going to organize it in something. I don't think your box is such an organized thing as much as it is there, like almost a trash can, like there. And the point I'm trying to make is that if it follows your body, the way that it gets into the box is that it's right here in front of you, and you go, I'm going to look at something else, and it falls into the box. In other words, the action of changing your focus drops this into something, into the I don't have to think about it box. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if that's the case, and that means the box is, I'm putting it so I don't have to think about it. I'm changing my direction, my focus. So in what's critical now as we start, right, is that these tasks that you allow to accumulate, right, have in common this kind of repulsive, even though you said it might be minimized, but there's an initial repulse, like pushing away from it, that says, I don't want to deal with this right now, and it puts it away. And there was this hint that it's bigger than something that you can deal with later. You actually know it.
Yeah.
Right? Okay,
Yes.
so would that mean that you have to discard it as quickly as possible so you don't fester in that feeling? Okay, I'm not gonna deal with this now. I can, and you even tell yourself, I can deal with this later. Does it happen right away, or do you stare at it and think, what should I do? What should I do?
No, it's quick.
It's quick.
It's quick and decisive.
Because if you had pain in your body and your remedy is to distract yourself, do it as soon as possible, man.
Yes.
Right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Do you see how this body thing is reflecting exactly
Right.
your behavior? And it's telling us a lot. So what can you say now about the things that lead to this accumulative effect of building up anxiety? What are some of the summarize the relationship you have to these things now?
Well, in terms of my body,
No, now in general, in the pattern.
In general,
But
in
the
the
body
pattern.
is working with you here.
yeah, it's like if the task or the event or whatever needs to be accomplished causes too much emotional, mental strife, I divert attention away from it
Right away.
right away. Eventually,
But you also tell yourself, it's not that bad.
yeah, it's not that big.
that's
of a
really
deal.
important.
Right? Yeah, I tell myself it's not
The
that
way
big.
you divert is by saying, I can get away with this because it's not that bad. I can deal with this later.
Yeah,
Right? Okay, so that's important to understand that this is how we're setting this up. And it has kind of a heavy, even in worst cases, burning feeling, but it's heavy in the neck and in the back of the skull.
yeah. It's almost like It's as if I think of my way in such a high regard that something so trivial can't affect me.
This is what you tell yourself.
This is what I tell myself.
Right. So you're only adding to the idea that you have to tell yourself something in order to give yourself permission to throw it away.
Yes.
It requires that.
Yeah.
You can't just go, I'm going to look at this. I'm able to look at this because I can handle that. You kind of need both things to happen,
Right.
right? And including like the thing with the mole or something. Oh, it's probably nothing. I only have to worry later if it's something, You see
Right.
what I mean? Like there's some conversation that has to happen, and that's going to be essential in where this is going. I don't know why, but
Yeah.
I know it is. Okay? Now, when you have this physical feeling that we've been describing and invigorating and doing
Yeah.
stuff to and kicking up, can you feel it now a bit?
Yeah, I can.
And does it have that resonance with you of, yeah, these are things that this is how it feels when I put stuff off?
Yeah, it's like, why the fuck do I keep doing this?
No, don't ask the question yet.
Okay.
All I'm asking is, does it feel real to like this is what it feels like?
Yeah, I can
now
feel it
here's-
right now.
Before we go good. Before we go into the more pattern analysis, a good thing to do here is to, and we're going to do this several times during the pattern analysis, is that taking that feeling, not the what I think I'm doing. The feeling is more raw and pure. Doesn't have your head trying to fix it, right? When you analyze it.
Right.
Can you remember feeling this way earlier in your life?
Yeah.
Okay. And what's the first thing that comes to mind when you remember this feeling this way?
I'm sure it happened sooner, but probably like
It doesn't matter. Whatever came to mind.
my term paper that I had to write in high school.
That's classic.
Yeah, and
But the feeling,
no, yeah, the feeling was there, right? And I didn't do it.
where was the feeling? When you were first assigned it, when you had to do it that night, or whatever.
Yeah, so it's like it gets assigned, and I'm like, all right, first day, not that big of a deal, like whatever. I
can do it.
yeah, it's like what do they give you, like 2 months basically to write this thing, a whole semester possibly, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, whatever. And then there's like this internal clock in your head, like
Can you already start to feel this?
not on the first day. And then the second day, yeah, and you're like, all right, I'll start it this weekend. Nope, more fun this weekend.
So every
Heaviness.
time you put it off, this becomes more apparent.
Yeah, or it
physical.
becomes heavier,
Yeah.
heavier, eventually to when I did it the night before.
Got it. Okay, so
Got a B, and I was like, all right, that's pretty good.
yeah, so maybe this is the way I should operate.
Right.
I can put up with a little bit of neck trauma to deal with this. That's a real important thing about the pattern. I mean, can I make it work? If there's been any success in this at all, with the idea that I could maybe even do it better, and what's really funny about patterns is that it's this upstream management thing. Like, can I lower the load of anxiety or the energy required to run this pattern to the point where the pattern actually can work for me? Can I make it so that I'm not beat up so physically? Okay, can I make that work for me? And then I can work on having the pattern turn the way I want it to. There's so often there's an element of possible or minimal success that encourages us as well to stay in the pattern.
Yeah, that's happened continually throughout my entire life.
Exactly. So it's not only that we think the pattern is eventually going to change. It's also that, you know what, I'm getting pretty good at this pattern.
Right.
Like I'm getting better at it. And I
think that's where like yo-yo dieting comes from, huh?
I don't know. Okay, all right. Okay, so now we want to move to the next step in the pattern and take a look at it, right? So what would be the next thing that happens? Like, it starts to build up, right?
Right.
And you mentioned the outside world. Tell me about that. So as this accumulated anxiety builds up, you mentioned the outside world. What starts happening to your relationship to other things in the world besides the term paper, besides the bills?
Things that I might not have a big reaction to, now all of a sudden are like, are you freaking serious? You know, like if someone asks something of me where it would be no big deal, I can do it. I'm like, why would you ask me that? Or, you know, why can't you do this? Or something like things that might be trivial now become a big deal to me.
A big deal how? Like when you said...
I feel offended.
Yeah, offended why, though? You're really getting close to what I'm asking.
I feel offended to someone to ask energy of me.
So now,
right.
Before this, requests were in your bailiwick. Like, yeah, I can do that.
Yeah.
In fact, is there a dramatic difference between feeling like I want to be the person who does things and the person who says, don't offend me like this anymore?
Yeah, huge difference.
I mean, is it possible that the other side of this is somebody who does things for people?
Like me?
Yeah, I'm talking about you.
Yeah.
Yeah. In other words, the reason you pick this difference is because normally you're a person who does things for people.
Right, my whole career.
Your whole MO.
Right.
We're talking MO here, we're not looking at career.
No, yeah. I pride myself on helping other people.
Yet, when you're in this accumulated effect, you know, this perfect storm, anybody asks you for the simplest thing like, are you kidding? And you even feel offended. Like, why are you asking to take my time? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Right. So what happens is that this accumulated effect, right, has an impact, a negative impact on your typical engagement with the world.
Absolutely.
And to the point where you feel offended or put upon unnecessarily, disrespectfully, it sounded in your voice.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, I can't believe you're asking me this. So there's disrespect in this, insensitive they are. You know, like now you have a very different view of those people asking you to do things.
Yeah, and then you find yourself talking to yourself in your car like, can you believe?
Yeah, gossiping to yourself.
Yes.
Right.
This person had the audacity.
Right. So you see what we're talking about here. We're not just talking about that you lose it with somebody. It actually impacts your normal MO.
Yes.
Your modus operandi, right? You are the person who is known for helping people and taking requests, even asking for requests. I'm exaggerating. I don't know. I'm making this up, right? But on this side, when this accumulates, you're like, no, I can't even believe you're asking that. And who are you to ask me that? Like now you're judgmental about that person. You're angry about that person. It's a very different relationship with the world.
Yes.
That's huge. And what does that feel like physically when you're in the car going, can you believe blah, blah, blah?
I'm on fire.
So your body feels heated.
Yeah.
What else? Tell me more about your body. Be more specific.
It's like I want to scream, like over and over and over again, you know?
Right. What is that physical feeling that you... So, for example...
It's frantic. It's frantic. Like my body feels...
overwhelmed?
Overwhelmed is a good... No. It's like overwhelmed is, yes, definitely one way to describe it. But in terms of physical sensation, it's like I have a bunch of energy in me that needs to be released, but it's stuck, and it's like making me impulsive, short,
Yeah.
not able to think maybe 5 steps ahead like I normally would, and I just react.
So
reactionary.
this buildup of energy, what is this energy like? What is this that's building up so much? What is the nature of this energy?
Explain.
I don't know. I'm asking you.
The nature of the
What is
energy.
the nature of this energy? What does it come from? What does it want to do that it's now bottlenecked or something?
Yeah, it wants to explode.
It wants to explode, but what would it do if this accumulative effect wasn't interfering with it?
Oh, it would just slowly. It would. The difference is like this. Think of it like this. You have a balloon,
Yeah.
and under these circumstances, I'm taking a pin to the balloon. Okay.
Pop.
Pop. And other circumstances, or when I am not operating under this cumulative effect,
Yeah.
think of it like I just simply am holding the end slightly open, and it's just the energy is slowly releasing in a
And
nice,
aiming it where you
controlled
want
fashion.
to.
Yes.
You're in total control of it.
Yes.
You don't have control over this energy.
Correct.
Am I putting words in your mouth?
No,
Okay.
I said the balloon.
Okay. So anyway, one of the effects of this is that you lose your normal control in the way you engage the world. Energy inside of you can no longer control. It's building up and it's going to explode.
Right.
And you want to scream. Why scream? What is that?
Because it releases energy.
But why scream? You could release energy by writing a string quartet. Why do you pick screaming?
Because it is loud, aggressive, fast.
Because what is it? How does screaming feel like what it needs to do?
To me, it feels like I am just. It's a push. I am pushing the energy out.
Are you pushing it out or is it pushing out of you?
No, I think I personally think it's a way to deal with the energy without dealing with the energy.
Would you then have to look for moments where you can push it out?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you look at it like
if you're the one who says, I need to do something about this, I need to push it out. Like almost like deliver a baby. I have to push it out. Then would you have to look for opportunities to push it out in a screaming way?
I think there's a level of control there. Like, for example, like you have an incident, you're in the car, you're gossiping.
Somebody cuts in front of you.
You're gossiping to yourself, right?
Yeah.
And then the gossiping, and you're like, ah!
Right.
Right?
But I'm saying...
So you chose that spot, but
Got it.
the spot also felt safe and comfortable.
I get it. But I'm saying that you're in the gym and somebody comes up and says, I still don't understand how to do those sets. And you would say earlier that you're triggered by that.
That happened today.
Okay, I know.
It happened
Okay,
today.
but
It
wait.
literally happened today.
Okay, but wait.
Sophia, I'm sorry.
What this is suggesting, though, is that it's not only that you're triggered by random events, that we can examine or explore this idea that you're also going, give me something to explode at. Give me some. Hey, come on over here. What you got? No, why are you asking me that? In other words, you could be actually, salivating for some excuse to explode. Does it feel like that at all? We're exploring this. Like, do you feel
I don't know.
jonesing for a chance to explode?
No.
Okay.
I'm not salivating for a chance to explode.
Okay, so does that
it
mean
feels
you're actually trying to control it?
Yeah, it feels uncontrollable.
Okay, so now that goes to this idea that it's not you pushing it out, that it's going to get out wherever it can.
I'm more with that because I
Okay.
feel like I try to control it, and I'm at the point where I can't, and I just
It's like you're on a date, you have to fart, you go outside.
right, like it's gonna happen. I just
do
need
it
to
in a
go
safe
somewhere.
environment.
Right.
Because the consequences would be devastating.
Date's over.
Right. So you're saying that as much as you can, you try to control the release of this energy
Yes.
because it's going to be explosive,
Absolutely.
right? Okay. So now we have in the beginning of the pattern we have events which are disturbing to you that they feel like there's some responsibility. You don't want to deal with it. It feels like it could be too much, whatever it is. But you also tell yourself, I can deal with it later. And you change your focus and those just go into the bin. Some holding tank.
Yes.
Right? But even every day that they stay in there, you feel them. You're tracking them. They're getting bigger and bigger.
Yeah.
And it's almost like once one starts, more go in.
Yeah.
Right? It almost is magnetized. Like, I'm going to put 2 more in there. I'm going to put 3 more in there. Is there something?
Yeah, it's literally what happens.
Yeah, got it. Okay, so there's this idea that once you're putting things off, the accumulation is already attracting more put off because if you deal with this thing, you're going to have to deal with all those things. So just keep putting them off.
Yeah, eventually it feels like too many things, and if I start,
But once you start it,
I got to do
fill it
them
up.
all. Yeah.
Right, okay. And then the other thing is that as it accumulates, your typical MO of being generous and solving problems and actually soliciting people's problems, like, tell me, I'll help you with these, becomes a different relationship to people who need you, and you're angry at them, that you feel you're being disrespected, and there's this energy inside that almost, is beastly, almost like it wants to explode. And and sometimes you do.
Yeah.
Right?
Not sometimes. Every time.
No, I mean in the series of the events of the pattern, every person that comes up to you, you may not explode.
Oh, right.
But
it's going to happen.
It's going to happen, right?
To someone.
You just try to control how many times it happens, and so forth. But after a point, it's almost like I can't control it. Is that as it gets closer to the actual balloon popping, it's getting worse and worse?
Yeah.
Okay. So now, is that the end of the pattern, or does this big explosion happen?
The explosion happens. I sit with it. I handle the problem, right? Like, I meet it head on, take care of it, and now it's, let me go clean up my damage.
Your collateral damage.
My collateral damage.
Uh-huh.
Here comes the apology fest.
Okay. So, what does it feel like physically when it explodes?
Relief?
Is that after the explosion? I'm asking you to think about the explosion. You're able to describe when you explode at a person in the interim.
No, okay. So what does it feel like? It feels like a loss of control.
I mean, like full control, like all.
Yeah,
control.
I feel almost. That's a lot of things. I feel helpless. Okay, regretful. I feel a little embarrassed that I couldn't handle my shit better.
Wait, is that after the explosion?
No, during.
During
After
the explosion, which lasts a second.
Well, okay, so during.
Yeah, this is like asking you what happens in the very first nanosecond of the Big Bang, not everything that happens after it.
It doesn't necessarily feel like relief. It just happens.
So you become like an observer.
Yeah.
What does that feel like? You're watching it?
It feels helpless.
You can't do anything.
I can't do anything about it.
You're watching it happen. You can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
Okay. How's it feel to be helpless like that? Is that normal for you? Is that...
No, I mean, I view myself as a pretty self-sufficient person. So it's difficult,
to be helpless. And sort of paralyzed by this enormity.
Paralyzed is a really good word. Yet, I find myself in this situation time and time again.
Mm-hmm. Got it. And then you have all these recovery feelings and actions.
Right.
Right? How does it feel to sit down with the mole, which is now malignant or something,
right?
Whatever it is, the tax spill, which is huge. How does it feel to sit down, having been through this series of events, that now you are actually looking at it? How does it feel physically to sit with that?
It's complicated because there's a feeling of relief or like, okay, this is done with, right? Like,
What is this that's done with?
the
What is done with?
the catalyst, for this feeling of
I mean,
help.
has the bill changed?
Right, but no, I paid it.
Yeah, no. But I'm saying as you're paying it, you're looking at it and saying, okay, I'll pay this now. The thing that you didn't do weeks earlier, days earlier.
Okay, so I just did that. So, how did I feel?
Just looking at it. It's like, okay, I'm going to deal with this now.
Honestly, my thought was, as I was looking at it and dealing with it, my thought was, this is not that big of a deal. I could have handled this months ago.
So you have some. So, and what does that feel like physically, though? How does your body feel when you're having that question going on? It's almost like you're looking for
Right,
a
I get it.
problem.
I mean, like I don't feel like I felt anything. It was more of a. I was numb.
You're detached, even.
Yeah, detached, and I'm looking at it.
Wait,
I'm like,
By the way, not feeling something is a state,
okay, I wasn't feeling anything.
right?
And it was a matter of being like, you could have just done this months
Yeah,
ago.
which feels more grounded, this moment or when you were putting stuff off? Is there such a thing as grounded at this point? Do you feel more centered? Do you feel more like, I can tell what's going on?
Yeah, this.
Yeah. So what's interesting about this is that you feel more collected, we're going to say grounded for lack of a better word.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. You feel more grounded, we'll say centered maybe, but you don't feel, I'm saying you feel more grounded and centered, but you don't feel any of the noise at all, either the putting it off or the getting anxious, right?
No, yeah, it's
Right. And you call that, I feel nothing, right? So in this grounded state, it's equated with, it's sort of paired with, I feel nothing. Do you hear it?
yeah.
Right? So when this explosion happens, you feel grounded, but you don't feel any of the stuff you normally feel. In fact, it's almost like you're missing, it's absent.
Yeah, which I like better.
And so it's this feeling that happens after the explosion in any pattern, in any crisis. This is the feeling we first find suspect as why you have the pattern. It's not the explosion you want. That's the part you want to get rid of, right? I don't want this buildup and yelling at all these people in the gym and so forth. I don't want that.
It's the feeling of
But
nothingness.
this is the way that you think you have to get to being centered and grounded and detached from all these other feelings. This is your juice. This is what drives the pattern.
Okay, but there's another way.
That doesn't matter right now. We're not there. What we're trying to understand is that when people say, why can't I get rid of this pattern? I've tried to pick different people. I've tried to pay my bills earlier, blah, blah, blah. It still happens. It's not because they're trying to get rid of, unsuccessfully, the crisis. It's because the thing that follows right afterwards, that's what they want, and that's how they think they need to get there. Sometimes it's different. Sometimes it feels like, let's say in the abusive pattern, the other person apologizes and says, I love you. You know I love you, baby. I'm sorry. And that's how they get that, is by enduring that suffering. You see what I mean?
Yeah, I see that with a lot of our nutrition clients, or people, not a lot of our people heading into nutrition coaching, like people that haven't done it with us, but when we talk to them about like their situations in the past,
Early stages in the program.
right? Early stages in the program, it's like they want or what they seek, the end game, right, is to feel in total control. In order to feel in total control, they have to feel completely out of control in order to gain total control.
Yeah. See,
So it's where, like,
right.
And Mardi Gras is a perfect example, right? People use Mardi Gras as an excuse to spiral completely out of control or for the rails to come off.
Yeah.
And, it's like Ash Wednesday's like, oh, it's the great reset.
Yeah.
But it doesn't just happen for that. It happens over and over again.
Yeah, totally. And so when people are trying to get rid of patterns, they always focus on the negative, disturbing, problematic dynamics of the pattern.
Rather than the result or the end.
But they shouldn't.
The aftermath. The aftermath.
So the irony of this is that when they're trying to get rid of it, they're focusing on what they don't like, and they find that they can't get rid of it. And that's because what they want, that they're not willing to let go of, is the means to get to this juice.
So, what you're saying?
We're demystifying patterns.
Right.
We haven't discussed how to get rid of it, though.
Right.
Okay.
But the overlying would be that I am seeking the feeling of nothingness.
And the only way I know how to get there is by building up the energy of control where I'm not controlling it. Like create this irony bubble, this balloon that explodes, and then I feel like I've dispersed control, and now I'll deal with it from a different place. Saying you're not going to deal with it now is still a form of control.
Yeah.
It looks like you're procrastinating. No, you're controlling how you're going to deal with it. It's just like when you were writing your paper. I'm going to wait till the last minute where I have no control over it anymore. And so I'm going to have to draw from some, heroic Titan dynamic in me, right? I'm going to have to draw from there and be the hero of my life.
Yeah, it's the only bee I've worn as a badge of honor my entire life.
Yeah.
I look back at that and I'm like, well, that was pretty boss.
Right? In other words, we think that this is the only way we can get it. That's why we repeat the pattern over and again. And we just try to change the pattern so it's not as labor-intensive, taxing, debilitating, but we still get this. It's almost like I'm going to change my addiction to something else so I can still get this, but I don't have the chemical addiction. It's something else now.
It's like, it's like if you're an alcoholic and now all of a sudden you're addicted to fitness or the endorphins from that or something.
Because you're still trying to get to this place. And it's pretty good to know this thing, because now we can actually talk about what you really want. And we no longer have to say, I want the explosion and yelling at my clients. It's not, you don't want that. But this is what you want. And so now we can actually be honest about why it is you feel you have to get through this to get there. Why does this have to produce that? And what happens if you don't get that? Which is a lot about how the pattern repeats itself. You feel like you can't sustain it, or you need this to get to it again, those kind of things. It's how addiction works, for that matter. So let's just take, if you mind just finishing off where you are. We're not going to be able to completely dispose of this, but but at least we can get to the process which then leads from there.
Okay.
Because that's the really extraordinary place. So you feel grounded. It's your preferred state, you even said. I prefer to be this way. How easy is it for you to be that way in normal life?
It's not.
Right. It's difficult for you to imagine what conditions have to exist in order to be that way. And there's probably some reality that says, well, I can't be that way because of, I don't know what
I tell myself those things all the time.
Yeah. But this is how I'd like to be. And so you create these events so that they accumulate like they do, and then you can be that way again. Almost to remind yourself, like, this is where I'd rather be. Is there any way I can sustain this? You try to sustain it, but it goes back. So that's number one. What would happen if you could never have that feeling?
I feel like I would just be living in Well, it's an interesting question because I was going to say I feel like I would just be living frantic all the time. However, if I could never have the feeling of nothingness or groundedness, then maybe I'm not trying to create scenarios to achieve that.
That's clever. I don't know. I don't know what to do with that. I think that's just some really good cleverness. So I want you to consider really if you could never have this groundedness and this centeredness, you could never arrive at it. It's never yours. What would happen to you? You can't do anything to get it. Like right now, how do you get it? You create this drama and then it happens. You can't have that feeling anymore. What would happen to you?
I don't know. Would I just be running around angry all the time?
Yeah. When you think of that anger all the time, I want you to imagine a space anywhere in the universe. It could be somewhere on Earth, in a hotel room, in a cave, on the street. It could be on a different planet. Doesn't matter. Where do you imagine? What's a good stage, a good environment that describes where you feel like you are when you're in this angry all the time?
Phew. Ooh, I don't know if I want to say.
Can you do something about it? Can you tell? Are you feeling like you're arriving at?
It's a familiar place.
But I want you to actually pick a physical space.
Oh, I have a physical space. I don't know if I want to say.
Can you describe anything about it? Is it light? Is it dark? Is it open? Is it closed?
I experience happy and upsetting memories there often.
So it is a kind of a place from your past
Or present.
I mean, but you've had it for a while.
Yes.
Okay. Are you alone in that space, or are there other people in it?
There's other people in it.
There what?
There are other people in it.
And what is their relationship to you in that space? This is where you cannot be grounded or centered.
Transactional.
So it's all transactions.
Yes. It can be.
And who are you in those transactions?
The giver.
Do you feel like if you were to be stuck in this place only, in this state, for the rest of your life, how would that be?
Miserable.
Why?
It's almost because I use this place as a means to an end.
Which won't happen.
Which won't happen.
So when you think of just being miserable like that, describe a place that holds that for you.
Being miserable?
Yeah, that kind of miserable. This is the deeper level of emotions. So it's the transactional stuff is happening, but where is this place? This I am miserable place.
Physically?
Like in the world, where would be a good metaphor or for analogy for where this place is?
Being stuck.
Where, though? What's the space like? Describe the space that you're in.
To me,
that feels stuck.
Right. To me, the physical, like when I think of feeling stuck or that physical space, it's not the space that matters. It's or how it looks or what it feels like.
I get that.
But it's that it's repeated every single day,
I
like
get
Groundhog
it.
Day.
Like Groundhog Day, right? So, but I get that. I don't want to diminish how important that and real that is for you. But I want you to make an effort to describe what stuck looks like in a physical space. I get that it's a feeling, a transactional feeling that's empty and repeated that you get it. But what does it look like if you had to say, this is what stuck looks like?
I mean, it looks almost, I don't want to say empty, but the better word would be say lifeless.
All right. We'll take that. So now you're going to live the rest of your life in a lifeless space.
Think of it like the Body Snatchers or something,
Okay,
right?
I get it. I get it. So all around you, it's lifeless?
Yeah.
What about the rest of the world? Where are they? All around you is lifeless. Where are all the people who don't think it's lifeless? Where are they?
Moving along.
Where are they? Someplace else?
Yeah.
Who are you to them?
Nothing.
How's that feel?
Terrible.
Yeah. Yeah. I want you to describe a person. What kind of person would be in a reality that feels like this? Just this state that you feel now. What do I mean by that? In other words, I'm a person who think about everything that got you to this place. That because of these things, you're going to end up in a lifeless room.
Yeah. I mean, it would be like I'm a person who tries to give everything they have, and in the end, I was a pawn for someone else to move into a life full situation.
At cost of lifelessness for you.
Yes.
Right.
Or forgotten.
Right. Now, this thing that you're describing now, the fear of this, the uncomfortableness with this, and the idea that you could change this by creating a different scenario, that's what's driving the pattern. And so in a counseling format, we would take that place that you're talking about now, which if you tell that was very emotional there, right?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I could see what was going on. That's now we're out of our heads. We're at this core raw feeling of why we are so friggin' desperate to make sure that doesn't happen. That we're willing to give up our sanity, our generosity, just to make sure we can arrive at that place where we feel like, oh, this is what I could feel like. It's very, very, very powerful. And once we're there, where you are now, once we've got that, we've identified it, then we can stay with it and then understand what's at stake for us in that place. Once we see what's at stake, we can release the conditions we think that are necessary in order to remedy it. We can also find out why we believe this is the way the world is, and then we let go. And that's how we dissolve the pattern. But see how long it took us to get to here? Because the pattern is complex and driven by very deep belief systems that we're trying to untangle, we're trying to remedy, and we don't know how because we also believe that's the way reality is for us.
Well, damn.
And so it's actually kind of promising to be able to say, even if people just go through the pattern analysis that we went through, you learned a lot about your behavior.
Right.
And so a lot of things start to change already. But if you really want to go all the way, you have to go all the way down the rabbit hole, find the thought, and then dissolve it. And you're right there. But given the time that we have, that's where we are.
Yeah. Well, guys, we'll continue this
All right.
in our next one. Let's get back into this next time.
Okay, right there where we left off.
Again, y'all, check out willmcgreal.com.
And I know we said this last time,
Yeah.
but everything I'm doing really is based on Anya's insight and understanding of how consciousness works. But it handles very real things like relationship patterns, money patterns, but not just patterns. Well, you know what? Because this is at the root of our reality, of what we think reality is, it shows up everywhere. So what we just talked about, it's going to show up in relationships and intimacy, in parenting. It's going to show up everywhere.
Yeah.
And that's why it forms patterns where it does anyway, because it's we believe that's all of reality. So I would recommend getting a hold of IM and giving a look, reading it. It will open your eyes to what's really going on beneath that.
I love it. And if you're struggling, if you're seeing these patterns develop in fitness, nutrition, reach out to us, stackcoaching.com, or just shoot us a DM at stackcoaching on Instagram or Facebook. All right, y'all, have a great day.